Yeah, we were talking, but what it was, our family would have been regarded as being comfortably middle class. Yeah, there were two decent incomes coming in. But there was very, very little luxury. And I would say yeah, with those that I went to school with, there was, for at least 90% of the student body, luxury was conspicuous by its absence. Yeah, we went through World War II. I was 6 when World War II started. I remember hearing my parents discussing before the war started. There was a word that they used. Chamberlain was the Prime Minister in England. And I remember they saying, Chamberlain is shilly-shallying. But they also said, you know, Ireland will be the battlefield. And I had an image of the old battles. And we had, and as it was going to be a battlefield, I imagined the armies meeting in Gary's Field. Gary's Field was where we had horse races 2 days a year. And, but during World War II, there was a rationing of butter, tea, sugars. There was anything which had to be imported. Butter didn't have to be imported, but it still was rationed. But rationing of butters, it was, if you had relatives who had farms, they made butter themselves, so it was easy to evade the restrictions. And given that at that time 60% of the population were directly involved in agriculture, there was a way of making sure you were getting your butter. But it probably accounts for the fact that we had a pretty uniform a diet without much variety. Potatoes were important. On the vegetable front, I would say at least 3/4 of the houses, the only vegetable that they used was cabbage. Well, cabbage and yeah, and maybe for a change, turnip. So, and for the duration of World War II, we didn't see any oranges, we didn't see any bananas. But things were probably better than they were. The food supply was better than it was in England. Because England had a population 10 times ours. And as well as that, there were the people who would normally have been employed on the farms were pressed into military service. But okay, World War II finished in 1945 when I was 12. There was very little of it that we saw. There was Ireland had a tiny army before the war started, and they increased the size of the army. I don't know what, we were neutral. They wouldn't, even though it was bigger than in pre-war days, it wouldn't have been able to stop anyone. But we had a military contingent billeted. They built billets just outside the town, and so you had the army billeted there, partly because of its proximity to the Atlantic Ocean. The only things that I remembered was you had magnet mines had been dropped in the waters, and some of them would wash up. A magnet mine was there it was attracted towards by ships, and you know, once it attached itself to a ship, it exploded. We would hear from time to time the magnet mine washed up on the shore a few miles away. But that was about as much direct connection as we had with the war. I suppose one effect of the war was we had the local football team. Every town, every village had its football team, and there was competition, county competitions. But to get to the games, there was no mechanized transport available. You would have what was called a long cart, which was used for transport. Normally it was used for transporting bags of flour around. But they would put seats on this, and it was pulled by 2 horses, and they would go 10, 15, 20 miles away to play their game. And we would be hanging around waiting for the result, and someone would come back on a bicycle and that was and tell us what the outcome was. Telephone was there were no telephones available. There were telephones available in the post office, in the Garda station. But you know, where the team would be playing, there wasn't a telephones. They couldn't call the post office, and they couldn't call the police station. But I remember this summer we were staying in a bed and breakfast in Kilrush, and the manager of the place, we were talking, and he said that his name was Clancy, and I asked him, there were quite a number of Clancys, and he was telling me about an uncle of his. I said, well, didn't he play? He played on the Kilrush team that won the Junior B Championship in 1944. He said, yep, he did indeed. And I told him that in Gaelic football, there you have uprights and you have a crossbar. If the ball goes between the posts and under the crossbar, it's a goal. If it goes over the crossbar, it's a point. And 3 points equals 1 goal. This man's uncle, he was in goal for the team, and when they were shooting around before the game, the ball hit the crossbar and broke the crossbar. So they got a rope and replaced the crossbar with a rope across. So anyhow, there was a ball coming in, and the opposing forwards were coming in, and they could have bundled him in. He jumped up, he cut the rope, pulled it down, and the ball went over the rope. And our team won by 1 point. They would have lost by 1 point if he hadn't done that. But yeah, and of course we played in the school. We had inter-class competitions. One of the brothers started it on his own, and he put in, were four, everyone